Unrecognizable. That was the word of the night at the 2026 Oscars. But why does our brain suddenly signal that the face looks off? Well, as humans, we have a deep-seated awareness of what exists in nature. And when a face moves in a way that violates that expectation or has different proportions than what we see in humans in nature, we fall into the uncanny valley territory. I'm Dr. Karam. I'm a board-certified facial plastic surgeon. I'm the founder and creator of Karam MD Skin. And today I'm going to show you the Jawline test. It's a clinical lens I use to spot a facelift from a mile away, and why some of our favorite celebrities like Nicole Kidman, Gwyneth Paltrow, Demi Moore are sparking so much deep brain awareness right now. This video is about education. It's not about gossip. My goal here is to give you a lens that you can use both on celebrity faces and on your own. If you like this approach to anti-aging and you like these topics, make sure you subscribe to this channel. All right, so let's discuss the Jawline test. This is going to help all of you who are curious and interested about who's done what, why do they look so great for their age, et cetera, et cetera. And we're gonna use some examples here. We're gonna talk about Demi Moore, Nicole Kidman, Gwyneth Paltrow, because there were a lot of conversation and awareness brought on them at the latest Oscars. There's a question also that comes up. I'm 50 something and I've got some sagging. My face doesn't quite look the same. And why does so-and-so look so good? They're 60 and they don't have any jowling. Biologically speaking, when people enter late 40s and early 50s, there is a series of changes that happen to the shape of the face. Shape of the face when you're young, got a tight jawline, the neck is contoured beautifully against the underlying tissues. There's no laxity, but then perimenopause and menopause starts happening, and then things start to sink. And what I'm speaking of specifically is women because of the hormonal changes that happen right around the late 40s and early 50s. So when I see somebody who I know is in their 50s and 60s, for example, and they don't have laxity, immediately my brain says, well, there's a 90% chance that person has had a facelift and therefore they don't have, laxity. If, on the other hand, they just simply have crazy good genetics, and that happens every once in a while, then it's a genetic situation. But eventually it's gonna catch up to them anyway. It does to all of us. Like, no one escapes aging. That's the foundation, right? That's the Jawline test. It's that biology dictates fascia, and fascia loosens as we age into our 50s. So if you're looking at a 50-something-year-old, you should see jowling, you should see a softening under the chin. The neck starts to get a little bit fullness under here, a little bit of laxity, a little banding, etc. So you start to see softening happening there. And if you see, on the other hand, a crisp, contoured neck and jawline at 60, chances are something's been done. So here we have Demi Moore, Nicole Kidman, and Gwyneth Paltrow. And I would just say Demi's 62, Nicole's 58, Paltrow is 53. And again, I'm not speculating whether they've had anything done per se, but again, applying the jawline test, et cetera, they all have beautiful jawlines, firm, no real neck laxity present. So unless this is strong genetic story here, that would be a fair assumption to say that there's probably some surgery in the history. But again, none of them have ever spoken about having surgery per se. There's been a lot of speculation, obviously. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, but of course, everyone has a right to their privacy, and I don't like to speculate, but this is just kind of how you would, if you were comparing yourself, you'd want to compare this aspect and try to understand yourself relative to this. You say, well, you have laxity and they don't, same ages, probably something has been done. Let's understand why some people look uncanny and others don't. And when it comes to surgery, it comes down to the vector. And this is probably the most advanced and important concept to understand when you are considering surgery for yourself, for example, is that not all facelifts are created equally. Not all surgeons perform facelifts the same way. And really the difference between a completely natural, undetectable facelift versus somebody who looks like they've had work done comes down to the vector. So when surgery, for example, pulls the face sideways, or the technical term is laterally towards the ears, the mouth widens a little bit. The smile looks kind of trapped and almost frozen. The mouth doesn't have the same kind of natural look to it. During animation, when the person's talking, the face looks a little bit stiff. When you don't see the normal movement of the face, your brain says, boom, imposter. That's kind of like the survival mechanism that kicks in. So when you look at the celebrities that are highly mentioned in this year's Oscars, Demi Moore, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Nicole Kidman, for example, apply this test. Ask yourself, for their age, how does the jawline look? Right? And also ask yourself, how does the face move? How does the tissue sort of, dynamically during smiling and animation, et cetera, how do they look? And so based on that, you can draw your own conclusions. And I think that's a very, very fair way to assess, because why it's important to understand this is because one of the things that drive people crazy is this assumption that celebrities have some kind of superpower and natural genetics that defies aging and all this kind of stuff. It's simply not true. Trust me, I've treated a number of celebrities over the years, and they're just like everyone else. They have the same concerns. They want to look as young as they feel. They want to look their best, and they don't like the changes that are happening with aging. And the goal there is, again, to restore somebody back to their youthful shape and leave them looking completely normal and natural, right? So bring them back to 20, 30 years ago. And that's a good place to land. And in order to get there, and we're going to talk about a little bit about this in a moment, you also need another really important feature, and that is youthful looking skin. These are good examples of opportunities for you to look at a celebrity. How does the skin look? Is the skin of somebody who's in their 50s and 60s, which is usually discolored, lines and wrinkles, not very plump, or is it supple? Is it youthful? Does it have a glow? That's what 20, 30-year-old skin looks like, because remember, skin aging is happening continuously. So when you see that, and I think in all three of these examples, when you see that, that person has literally been taking care of their skin for a while. That's a commitment that they made to their skin. And it doesn't just happen. No one biologically has great skin in their 50s and 60s unless they've been taking care of it. Just make sure you understand that point. So then when you potentially get a facelift that brings the shape of the face back to where it was when you're in your 30s, now you've got the skin to match it. That's the magic. That's why some people look ageless, like they're not aging, et cetera. And other people, things look off, because that's another thing that sets, sort of the alarm off, is if the person has a tight jawline and neck and has really aged looking skin. That doesn't look natural either, because that doesn't happen in nature. You don't have young looking shape and old looking skin. They go together. That's super important. So this concept of the right shape, the right skin, leaving things looking totally undetectable is the standard, the epitome of high-level facial plastic surgery. The undetectable outcomes that keep you recognizable instead of looking different. And that's the standard of facial plastic surgery that we want to perpetuate and really set. So outcomes that are natural, they don't trigger a deep brain awareness that something is off. And that's the level we should all strive for as surgeons, but as prospective patients, that's what you need to be looking for in your surgeon's outcomes. That's super important. No one wants to look different. They just want to look like themselves, but younger. Anything less is not ideal. But here's what really bothers me about this conversation. So a 60-year-old face changing and a 37-year-old face changing are not the same story, not even close. I mean, that was another topic that came up a lot during these Oscars, is looking at some younger people and doing a lot of speculation, right? Because they're totally two different situations. When people see a 50 or 60-year-old looking better, they jump to facelift. When they see a 30 or 40-year-old looking better, they still jump to facelift. It really sets the wrong message out there, because what ends up happening is then you get a bunch of 30, 40-year-olds calling offices like mine, which I get all the time, asking for a facelift, and they are nowhere near needing a facelift, right? So it's important that if we don't know the difference between structural aging and superficial level changes, we end up drawing the wrong conclusions for our own faces and ultimately seek treatments that we shouldn't. So that's really important. That's a big part of this entire channel, is to help guide those decisions so you understand where things should go. So let's look at the middle ground, the 50s, where the confusion really starts. So let's talk about Leonardo DiCaprio, who got a lot of attention, right? So Leonardo DiCaprio, he's 51 years old, and he's a perfect example of why you can't just guess surgery every time. People were shocked by his transformation this year, noting how much younger he looked. So when you look at Leonardo's photos just from a little while ago compared to now, he definitely looks more lean, he looks more healthy, and as a result looks younger looking, right? But he still has the same level of softening along the jawline, a little bit along the neck. So immediately you think that can't be from a facelift, because if it was a facelift and a neck lift, those features would be gone, right? This is how I think when I look at these type of photographs and these type of cases. If it was perfectly smooth like it would be in a 20, 30-year-old in terms of jawline and neck, then likely it's surgical. But if there's still some stuff going on, then that tells us that the tissues have not actually been addressed, right? Surgically speaking. So this isn't a facelift in my opinion. This is a lesson in systemic inflammation, just all around health. And I see this a lot where somebody in their 50s, they don't, it's not talking about like Ozempic level weight loss, 30, 40, 50 pounds, because I think when you do that in your 50s, there's a pretty significant amount of aging that happens as the face starts to droop and fall from the loss of volume underneath the tissues. That's a very common situation. But in Leonardo's case, what he appears is literally just he's made some minor weight loss changes, a healthier lifestyle change, which has improved his face dramatically. The jawline oftentimes in those cases will even look a little bit better, but the puffiness under the eyes, improve. There's a sustainable transformation because it's not about adding volume or removing volume. It's really about looking healthier. And I think that needs to always be kept in mind, because I do spend a lot of time discussing about this, where it's not just, surgery and skin, it's surgery, skin, and taking care of your body, because your face and your skin reflect your health. So that's really, really important. And I think in the case of Leonardo, to me, he just looks healthier. He just looks like a healthier version of himself. So that's an important thing to kind of differentiate as well, and note what kind of impact that can make. So Emma Stone's 37 years old, and in your late 30s, you aren't dealing with the same structural collapse we see in the jawline test group, right? So applying the notion of having a firm jawline at 37, we're talking like less than 1% of the population, way less than 1% is gonna have jawline laxity at that age. But the problem with actors and actresses is we're familiar with their faces. Probably you guys are potentially more familiar than I am. I really, until things are brought to my attention, I usually don't know any of this stuff is happening. But there's a lot of questions and comments about Emma Stone, and so I thought we'd just look at it. So here, for example, when you're looking at Emma Stone from 2023 to 2025, I think the concept is what's going on around her eyes. It looks quite a bit anatomically different. One thing to keep in mind also is that there's two scenarios that affect the upper eyelid region, and that's the region that was focused on in her case. And there's a condition where you actually form excess skin as a result of normal genetics. When I say normal genetic, I mean there's a gene for forming extra skin around your eyes. And even puffiness in the lower eyes that can affect even 20-something-year-olds. Like I've had cases where literally patients in their 20s and early 30s came in for upper and lower blepharoplasty and a fat transfer, not because they were aging, but because genetically they had that feature that is consistent with an older person. And of course, being in your 20s and 30s, you don't want to look like an older person. You want to look like a younger version of you. And I don't think necessarily that Emma Stone's eyes looked prematurely aged, but there's clearly a difference between the two. And sometimes younger patients, and we get this a lot, they just don't like the heaviness around their eyes, the excess skin around it, the position of the brow, etc. And in those cases, I've done, an upper blepharoplasty to remove a little bit of extra skin. And oftentimes, and this is just important to note, if there's heaviness in the corners of the brow, even if you do an upper blepharoplasty, you don't really see the effect of that if the brow is heavy. So elevating the corner up just slightly, you can actually expose the upper eyelid crease a little bit better and a little bit more of a platform to put makeup on, which is something that people really want. So when you look at Emma Stone, there's two features that look, different between 2023 and 2025, and that is improvement in the amount of skin around the eyelid, as well as the notable difference in the position of the brow, right? So the tail of the brow is sitting higher, that lateral hooding is gone, and this makes look like a conservative blepharoplasty and a lateral brow lift. This is different than anti-aging surgery. You could consider this more of a cosmetic type of an effect that is led by genetics and premature changes around the eyes. And the net effect of this is that it's a subtle shift that keeps her looking more awake without changing her identity. And at 37, you aren't fighting gravity yet. You're just trying to refine the canvas. That's why I consider this a bit more of a cosmetic change. And I think it looks quite beautiful. And she's beautiful both before and after the surgery, or potential surgery, I should say. We don't know what she's had done per se. It could be Botox elevating that, etc. So there's a number of different things. But this is a common thing that I have done for younger patients who had similar type of features. Which then leads to the common thread here, right? What is it? The skin is one variable you can control. The celebrities who stay out of the quote unquote uncanny valley always have the best skin quality. And honestly, practicing for 20 years, I've known this from the very beginning. And I've always committed my surgical patients and anyone else I ever met to really focusing on getting great skin. So I put them on sun protection regimens, all sorts of actives, etc. Did lasers and chemical peels, regardless of whether they're having surgery or not, because I recognize the importance of skin from the beginning of my practice. And frankly, that is exactly why I developed the Karam MD trifecta, which really I was looking for something that was super effective and super simple so people can actually stick with and get the same type of skin that you see in these actresses and folks that have made a commitment to their skin an absolute priority. So remember, you can fix the shape of your face with a vertical restore, but to fix the biology of your skin, you need to use things like vitamin C, retinol, niacinamides, and a list of other actives that are literally all in the trifecta. And you need to be consistent. You need to use it day in and day out so that your skin is actually getting younger with time, not getting older every single day, right? And if you do that, then when the day comes that you actually end up having a facelift or any other type of surgical intervention, vertical restore, etc., you will look natural, right? Because young skin, young shape, that's what young people look like. Natural requires both of those things in addition to the surgery being technically done correctly. If you enjoyed this type of thing and you want to learn more about these topics, make sure you sign up to the Karam MD Journal. That's a newsletter that I write every single week and it'll be directed to your email. For those of you who want to learn a little bit more about the vertical restore, which is a surgical procedure, as well as the Karam MD trifecta, check out the karammdskin.com website and drkaram.com for the surgical stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If it helped you and you want to share it with some friends who enjoy celebrity aesthetics, etc., make sure you pass it along and forward to them. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, Dr. Amir Karam.